Story 1. Things have been getting scarier in the United States for some time, and the same is true in many other parts of the world. The future everywhere is very uncertain. Story 2. I have no marketable skills or wealth. That is not likely to happen. Story 3. I will not leave. I would rather stay and fight for the principles this country was founded on. This country has endured much worse, and it can fail only if good people abandon it. Progress is never a straight line, and there are sometimes regressions. To surrender now would be cowardice. Story 4. Honestly, I would leave immediately if the opportunity arose. It is not because I hate America. I am tired of healthcare being a gamble, housing being a scam, and politicians treating us like pawns while pretending it is the greatest country. Story 5. No. I have relatives on my wife's side who were arrested in their country for being gay. Story 6. I am currently in the process. I was formerly a proud veteran. This is not what we fought for. Story 7. I do not know where I would go. No country is that welcoming to brown people. More than that, this is where my family, friends, job, activities, and culture are. I think I will be here, but I am not looking forward to what is to come. Story 8. Go where? Many countries have strict immigration laws and do not want you unless you are highly educated. Story 9. Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, and the Netherlands are consistently at the top of the list of best places to live and have the happiest citizens year after year. Story 10. I would get along well in Canada after crossing Lake Michigan by boat. I could adjust comfortably to the United Kingdom while mostly being known as the Yank. With a different flavor but no more intense cognitive dissonance than I already live with, I would be at home with Australians. Anywhere else would take real work, which I would be excited to do if given the opportunity. Story 11. Spain. After traveling around the world multiple times in the past 10 years, I realized the United States is truly overrated for the middle class. We do not have it as good as people make it out to be. I have started to consider migrating to a more peaceful country. Story 12. I have more money in my bank account than I ever have, but it is still only about 2 months' worth of rent and bills. I have a technical, well-paid career. If someone outside the United States recruited me and paid for my move, I would jump on it in a heartbeat, but that is not realistic. Story 13. If my family were on board, we would already be gone. I had a well-paying job lined up at a branch of my company in another country, but my family was not okay with moving. I hope it is still an option when they finally come around. Story 14. That is a tough one. It is not just about wanting to leave. It is about whether you are able to. Factors such as job opportunities, visa requirements, and language barriers will all play a significant role in that decision. Story 15. I have lived in another part of the world for 25 years, though I visit my family in the United States every 1 to 2 years. I moved away because I wanted to see and experience more of the world, not for any political reason. I got married, had children, and I am still where I am. No judgment from me because maybe the situation over there really is that hopeless. But would people fleeing to other countries only exacerbate the problem? Would it result in brain drain and reduced opportunities for those unable to leave? What does patriotism look like in 2025? I am genuinely curious to know what others think. Story 16. No, I have friends overseas, and they have as many complaints about their countries as some people here. I know some people who moved out of the United States and are returning. Story 17. If I had won the lottery, I would love to move to another country. Story 18. I would do it in a heartbeat, but I'm just as likely to win the lottery, and that would have to happen before I could leave anyway. Story 19. I would leave if I could, but not for the exact reasons most people think. I was born, grew up, and still live within a 50-mile radius. Aside from vacations, I have never lived anywhere else. I know I am not happy in my current location, but I wonder if it would be better elsewhere. Maybe there is a place where the culture aligns more closely with my core values. Maybe there is a place with real seasons to appreciate. Who knows if any place is better? That was a ramble. I know I do not like where I am, but do not really know where I would be happier. Does this resonate with anyone? Story 20. I would love to live in Norway. It is a happy country that takes care of its people, is very safe, and provides solid safety nets for people who fall on hard times. It is a beautiful country with kind people who are somewhat shy like me. Sadly, I do not think they would accept me. Their immigration standards are quite high. I have learned a fair amount of Norwegian, but not nearly enough to be proficient. Story 21. I would like to go to someplace like Finland or Denmark. These countries are consistently ranked among the happiest in the world. Story 22. I come from a third world country where people are shot every day and no one is allowed to own guns. If you ask me, the United States is far from perfect but much better than most countries. Everywhere you go, it seems to be getting worse, or at least that is the perception. I love it here and would not go anywhere else. Story 23. Vietnam is freer and more American than the United States is today. Story 24. Yes, I don't want my children to die in their classrooms. Story 25. Jesus Christ, your fucking question. Reddit subreddit I am 14 and this is deep. Story 26. I would just like to have options. I am not under any illusion that living as an expatriate is all sunshine and roses, but it would be nice to know there is at least one other place that would accept me and where I would also like to live. Story 27. I have an opportunity to move to Canada and it is very likely that I will take it. Story 28. I would move to Melbourne, Cairns, or the Gold Coast in Australia. Australia is a lot better than the United States in many ways. It is not perfect, but it feels like paradise in comparison. Story 29. Heck yes, Canada for sure. If not, I'd pick California, since I believe it is a whole different world from the gross crap. Don't poke the bear. Story 30. I've wanted to leave ever since Trump became president this year. It's impossible to leave. I have no college education, no job skills, a preschooler, and 3 pets. I want to move to a place where I do not have to worry about my daughter's schooling. I want to live somewhere I feel safe becoming pregnant again and where I am not afraid of needing medical attention. I will gladly give up my citizenship if it means I feel safe. Story 31. Canada is culturally similar but with no danger of sliding into fascism. It also has no tariffs. Story 32. No, it's still my home. I have a sense of security with my family, my job, my house, and my culture. Story 33. My husband works remotely for a Canadian company and we often talk about the feasibility. I actually love where I live and many things about the United States, but some trade-offs are becoming hard to stomach, especially as parents. Story 34. Average people's lives are getting worse year by year. That's bringing the country to a boiling point. Politically, things are alarming. Many people are convinced there will not be free and fair elections, while others dismiss such concerns as fearmongering and deny that this could happen. The rhetoric on both sides, more so on the right but present in both, is becoming increasingly violent. The segment of the population that wants to kill, imprison, or strip rights from their political opponents is larger than it used to be. Extremist views are no longer confined to a tiny fringe. Some have become mainstream on the right, particularly regarding transgender people. It is a powder keg. Story 35. My wife and I left in August. We sold our house and gave away almost everything we owned. We are currently in the Netherlands. Within hours of arriving, we knew we had made the right choice. Within a few days, I realized we should have left 10 years ago. It is that much more pleasant and healthy here. You can tell by the civil engineering and by almost everything that people come first. We still struggle with news cycles, especially on days like today, but overall we have stopped investing our energy in wondering whether the United States is fixable. We do not believe it is, largely because the left lacks an effective counter to fascism. Once we lost faith in the Democratic Party to protect us, it was time to go. Story 36. America is my home. The only way I am leaving permanently is in a pine box, preferably at a ripe old age. Story 37. Absolutely not. There are problems everywhere in the world. Story 38. Is everything an answer? Bad wages, billionaires, stupid tax codes, gun violence, stripping healthcare, food stamps and other safety nets from the poor and disabled, high interest rates, insane food prices, higher prices for paper goods, cleaning solutions and laundry soap, soon-to-be banned books, turning away from science, A recent turn to Christianity that does not follow the teachings of Christ, continued efforts to eradicate women's rights, the new idea of trad wives as a positive trend, the outrageous effort to keep the Second Amendment a free for all without checks, racism, the deportation of immigrants despite the fact that nobody except Native Americans is from here, and the refusal to acknowledge alternative energy as a viable resource for light, heat, and air. I may have missed a few things. What else? Give me a full night's sleep and I'll be back tomorrow to add to this list. Story 39. Yes, I don't feel safe here. Violence seems to be on the rise, and there are people who wouldn't care if people like me were killed. Some even want that. Story 40. Honestly, I do not think things in the United States are that bad. 3 presidents have been shot during my more than 50 years. Violent crime was statistically far worse when I was a child. Everyone is so addicted to news and the internet now that we simply perceive that everything is bad. All that said, I will retire in Chicago and northern Italy in about 8 years. Incidentally, both places have seen massive drops in violent crime. The homicide rate in Italy is down 80% since I graduated high school. In Lombardy, it is incredibly low. Everyone thinks the sky is falling just because a nut hit them in the head. Story 41. I grew up and spent time in a farming area with great places to hike. I would never leave the United States. Story 42. No. There are 2 reasons. First, my family is all here and my parents are getting older, so I want to be somewhat close to them. Second, I am in my 3rd year of medical school. I worked extremely hard to get where I am, and I have already spent more than $150,000 on tuition, so I have a great deal to lose by leaving the country. Story 43. I would love to, but I would much rather someone more vulnerable be able to get out. Story 44. I live in Southeast Asia, and many countries here are in turmoil. Things have been bad worldwide lately. Look at Nepal too. Story 45. My wife is a Norwegian citizen through her parents. Although she was born here, we are actively discussing when we should pull the ejection lever. It is a big jump because, although she is a citizen, she has only been there for about a month and barely speaks the language. Story 46. I lived in Germany for 6 years. Candy is better and German girls are way cooler. You can drive fast and the beer is amazing. I would move to Germany and never look back. Mein Herz ist Deutschland. Story 47. If my entire immediate family were to make the move, then yes, but I could not bear to be apart from them. Story 48. Yes. Simply for the chance of a better and safer life for my family and me, and for a safer school system for my child. He is not close to school age yet, but the thought of him having to participate in an active shooter drill makes me anxious. I am tired of the violence. Although I vehemently disagree with the actions of those in government and consider them the epitome of evil, I still do not believe violence is the answer. Story 49. I just obtained my Irish passport, and if things really go badly, my family will leave. Unfortunately, not many people have that option. Story 50. I want to move to Germany. It is bad in the United States when a well-known podcaster is assassinated on a recorded livestream witnessed by hundreds of college students, and most people who were not present do not seem affected. We became desensitized a long time ago. In 3 days, it will be like it never happened. If this had occurred 15 years ago, most people would have been shocked and shaken. Story 51. I would do it for my child. They are only 1 year old, and imagining them growing up terrifies me. If my number 1 priority is to ensure my child's well-being, do I owe it to their future self to leave the United States of America? Story 52. A friend is moving to New Zealand soon. I was stunned at the price of her visa. 7 figures. I could never afford it. Story 53. If I had the money to comfortably leave the country and live elsewhere, I would do so tomorrow. It is a disaster, and there is nothing that can be done at this point to change it. Story 54. As a transgender American, yes, I'm getting out of here if you give me a chance and a place that is safer. Literally anywhere, even a little bit safer than here. Story 55. I would take my wife and leave. The Supreme Court recently told law enforcement they are free to detain and disappear people for appearing Hispanic or having a Hispanic surname. If someone tried to take her, I could end up dead or in prison, so the safest option is to leave. Story 56. Yes, I would go in a heartbeat. I believe my family qualifies for German citizenship because they fled Germany during World War II, but I am poor, so I am stuck in this hellhole. Story 57. Yes. I have had a chronic health condition since childhood, and my life has been dictated by the need to maintain employer-provided insurance. Moving to a developed country with high-quality healthcare would be life-changing. I want to live somewhere I do not need to own a car, that does not have staggering gun violence, and where I do not have to worry about rising rates of measles, tuberculosis, whooping cough, and similar diseases. I am a trans woman, which is an immediate risk for me right now. Story 58. I could leave tomorrow if I wanted to, but this is my home, and I still hold onto the belief that the United States is bigger than the current political climate. I hope I am not proven wrong. Story 59. No, because other places are just as bad or worse. Story 60. My life has not changed. I do not look for things to cry about. Story 61. I'm not going anywhere. I will live and die here. I have no other home. Story 62. I would like to move somewhere in Southeast Asia for a change. Story 63. I am waiting for some financial things to wrap up, and then I am getting the hell out to Canada. One of my children is already there. I refuse to bury one of my younger children because this nation's politicians are so far up the ass of corporations that they no longer have any attachment to being human. I feel guilty for planning to leave because so many people cannot, and it is massively unfair. But I cannot justify continuing to endanger my younger children when I have the means to leave. Story 64. We already have our visas for Panama. Most people I know who say the United States is the best country in the world have never left it. I will miss the wide open spaces, but not some of the people I met there. Story 65. The United States is still a better place to live than most of the world. If it became unstable enough for that to change, there would not be many places to go. Story 66. We have real plans, but we will be here as long as my wife's parents are alive. Story 67. I've been planning my exit for some time. As soon as I'm credentialed and employed somewhere else, off I go. Story 68. Things are bad enough that they could easily get worse, to the point where they start drafting and sacrificing people. Now is the chance to leave before something really ugly happens. Many disabled veterans wish they had fled while the going was good. What different lives they could have lived. Story 69. No. I will wait 3 years and then decide who to vote for next. Story 70. Another school shooting leaves children dead, and our president would rather tweet about his buddy. This country is a joke. Story 71. Absolutely. Black people have historically not had the best relationship with the United States government. Unfortunately, I am too poor to leave, so I just have to wait to die here. Story 72. Social media is destroying the world. It is being co-opted by hate groups and by leaders such as Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Meanwhile, those leaders only allow their citizens to view government-approved websites. Americans and others spoon-feed themselves whatever hateful and divisive rhetoric is pushed on them. Story 73. I still have my United Kingdom citizenship. I will leave if it appears necessary. Story 74. Hell no. I love this country and I am incredibly thankful to be here. Story 75. In a heartbeat. This country hates poor seniors. Story 76. Absolutely. I do not want to spend approximately the last 25 years of my life living in increasingly worse conditions. Story 77. Is going to another part of the galaxy an option? I will take that. Story 78. Reykjavik, Iceland. I would do almost anything to live there. This thought crossed my mind in 2016, and it has been a long-shot dream to become an Icelandic citizen. Realistically, the only way that could happen is to marry someone who is Icelandic. They are not really open to accepting immigrants otherwise, beyond short 3 or 5 year stints. Story 79. We would move to Germany to be with my husband and his family. Germany is a country that has already faced its ugly history and learned from it. The United States is still barreling headlong through its ugly present and will probably never learn from its mistakes. Story 80. My wife keeps suggesting Spain or Portugal. We are tired of the political climate here. Story 81. I live in Canada, and the only thing that scares me is how close the Americans are. Story 82. Fuck no. No matter what bullshit goes on, I love this fucking country. I don't want to put my head in the sand and think everything is hunky-dory. Far from it. As small as my voice is, it is rooted in love for what we aspire to be, even though we fall short. All that said, Trump can go fuck off. Story 83. Yes, I am transgender. I am next in line for the camps. Of course I am leaving. Story 84. I want to go to Canada because they know how to care for people with disabilities and older adults. Story 85. If I could, I would have already been in Canada. The United States is essentially finished from multiple directions. Overall, the world looks pretty bad. Story 86. It is very similar to Germany in 1933. If you still can get out now, there are expatriate groups on Facebook that can help you connect with people to arrange a move. Story 87. I would still have to hear about school shootings even then. Leaving because of today seems confusing. The country's toxicity and the slow regression of its identity are more concerning. Story 88. If there were a genuine chance, I would head to Vienna. Everything in the United States is turning to shit. I feel sad for those who do not see it. Story 89. I am a Canadian living in Canada and working in the United States of America. I want to move there. That should tell you what you need to know. Story 90. Nope. This place is messed up, but plenty of other developed countries are more suppressed and strict. I can flip off a police officer here, maybe get a ticket for disorderly conduct, appear in court, and have the charge dismissed. This country is so goddamn contradictory. It is a melting pot. You can think and believe what you want, but when you start pushing those beliefs on the general population, it becomes a problem. This is the land of the free. Do and speak as you wish. Shaking my head. Story 91. There is no better country in the world for the way I want to live. Story 92. I'd love to leave, but I'm not sure how to or how much it would cost. Story 93. America is gone. No one can have true discourse anymore. Political party lines have been drawn, and if you do not fall in line, you are considered worthy of death. Get me out of here. Story 94. My wife is a Brazilian citizen. I am not planning to leave and do not foresee it being necessary, but I am glad it is an option. I never would have thought I would feel that way. Story 95. I have looked into it, but it seems very difficult and offers limited long-term stability in most cases. Story 96. I have left many places. Some were friendly and some were not, but no place even comes close. What bothers me most are the socialist and communist countries I have visited. They were horribly depressing. Young people today who idealize those philosophies should visit them. If you are looking for something better, good luck. It does not exist. Final stop. Story 97. No, because my friends and connections are here. I would rather stay in my community and help make it better than be isolated in a place that might be better but where I would have to form new bonds. Story 98. I remember taking an American history class in college just to fulfill a general education requirement for my degree. If I recall correctly, the course covered the period from the Civil War to the present. The professors were passionate and made sure to cover lesser-known moments in American history, such as early Muslim figures and others. Something that shocked me was that before the nation entered World War II, there were large Nazi rallies, like the one in Madison Square Garden. We hear about other parts of our shady history, such as slavery and the deliberate slaughter of bison to undermine Native American populations, but one of the Allies having many Nazi sympathizers was surprising. They also covered other parts of the United States' dark history that do not get discussed in high school. It really highlighted how cyclical history is, yet too many people think we will not repeat the mistakes of the past. Want a similar allegory? Think of the Crucible and the Red Scare. I am tired of the politicians and ashamed of being an American. I am tired of all the hatred. Ordinary people should not be fighting each other when our leaders are betraying us. I miss when elected officials at least tried to appear professional. Running away will not fix anything. There are conflicts in other parts of the world as well. I have family and friends here, and I will do my part in elections while we still have them. I hope we can hold on and recover from the damage of the orange and the fascist Make America Great Again cult. So much for love thy neighbor. The cult only loves you until you are on the chopping block. Story 99. My partner and I want to leave. We do not know where to go. He is disabled and I am not in the best health. We are charming, smart, and kind. We also have $250,000 in savings. Any recommendations? Story 100. Not yet. I have elderly family members who will likely die in the next 5 to 7 years. I could not leave them, and there is no way they would leave. If they die, I will leave if I have the chance. Story 101. Well, where I live in the United States has stronger abortion and queer rights than anywhere else on Earth, so unless that changes, I am staying here. Europeans are very racist. Story 102. It's home. It's hard to leave a place I love so much, even when things are spiraling out of control. Story 103. If you are not white, many other countries that consider themselves peaceful do not accept you and are experiencing their own immigration crises. This reflects worldwide prejudice. Story 104. If you only focus on the bad things, it is horrible. 99% of the time it is wonderful. I love my community and friends. I would not leave for anything. Story 105. I am actively working on obtaining my citizenship in a country in the European Union. I will not leave immediately when I get it, but at least I will have options. Story 106. If I ever get rich enough, I'll move to Ireland. I'm disabled and queer. I think you can put 2 and 2 together why I don't want to be here. Story 107. I am Canadian and have already moved to Ecuador. While some areas are more dangerous if you are in the wrong neighborhood, it is less risky for me to support myself here. Legally, I can do almost anything to make money. There is not the red tape that exists when starting a business in Canada. My living expenses are $500 a month. I know Americans who bake cookies and loaves, such as lemon, banana, and corn. They walk around town selling them and make, on average, $20 in profit per day. If I lose my job in Canada due to artificial intelligence, robotics, or the temporary foreign worker program, I will have virtually no help from the government. I refuse to accept that. I am going to live somewhere I can make a living baking in my house and hustling. Story 108. I know they would hate me for a bit, but I would have left for Barcelona yesterday in a goddamn heartbeat. Story 109. If I had enough money to comfortably live for the rest of my life, I would certainly consider it. But the United States is always my home, despite all the shitheads I have to deal with day in and day out. Story 110. No. I love my country, no matter what, and I will defend her with my last breath. Story 111. Not unless I am actually going to be killed. My partner is entitled to Latvian citizenship, so that is an option. Marrying her and moving to England is another option. Neither of those options is one I want to take. My children are here, and I do not want to put an ocean between us, let alone a few states as is the case now. Story 112. My youngest son is studying in Australia now and will likely stay there after graduation. I wish my other 2 children would join him, but they are happy with their jobs and feel relatively safe where they are. I am old. Part of me is stubborn and wants to fight for what used to be America. The other part wants me to visit Australia. Story 113. No. My entire extended family is here, from grandchildren to parents. I wish I could take them all and get out of this place before the administration starts targeting white people, but that cannot happen. Story 114. Now that my daughters and I have finally received our passports after recently being granted citizenship in a European country, I feel that we have a backup plan. My husband does not have one, but if it becomes so bad that we have to flee the country, he will come with us and we will figure things out from somewhere safe. I'm honestly just happy that if one of us develops a major illness that could bankrupt us, we can move to Europe and have access to free healthcare. In many cases, moving to another continent would be cheaper than paying for years of cancer treatment. My children can also attend college for far less money than in the United States. Story 115. Sorry, I cannot assist with content that insults or demeans people from a region. Here is a neutral, clean version suitable for text-to-speech. I am not going anywhere. Many people are leaving South America because they feel unsafe in their home countries. Some believe they should work to improve their countries, while others feel the United States offers better opportunities. Story 116. I was raised with the ideals of democracy. At my elementary school, every year from kindergarten through 5th grade, I had to memorize patriotic songs, dress up, and sing for the parents. In learning those songs, I began to believe the values they praised. Checks and balances, working together despite our differences, and that we were making progress. I still believe that, even in spite of its flaws, and the fact that my family has good reason to be targeted by hateful conservatives, I do not believe in giving up on my country. Just because the grass is greener on the other side does not mean we should all move. You know why? My grass is here and their grass is there. We and they want to keep it that way, as with Japan's evolving attitude toward tourism and immigration and Mexico's evolving attitude toward American gentrification. If it comes down to it, they will have to drag me out and choose my new home for me. Story 117. Fuck no. This is my country too. The ideals it was founded on are worth fighting for. If it comes to that, I am ready, but I hope it does not. Story 118. I am slowly trying to convince my wife to move to Australia. Story 119. Absolutely not. I feel very safe and comfortable. Nowhere else can provide me with the quality of life and wages I have here. Story 120. I do not know what is going on in the United States, but things are lovely in New Zealand. Story 121. Mama didn't raise a quitter. Things might be tough, but leaving doesn't seem like the right solution. Story 122. I commented yesterday about leaving the United States. It is not heading in the right direction. I used to be the type who was gung-ho about fighting and trying to change things. I did that for more than a decade, but things only got worse and nothing I did changed the outcome. Now I just want to settle down and start a family in a place that does not need rebuilding from the ground up. I would rather leave and let the country go to ruin than stay and go down with the ship. I deserve better, and if I cannot get it here, I will get it somewhere else. Story 123. Well, someplace with free healthcare and a strong technology sector, please. English as the primary language. Story 124. My husband has dual citizenship in San Marino, so that is an option. Story 125. No, I love my country, especially the rugged, wild parts. Story 126. No. The reason is that, despite our faults, things are not better elsewhere. They are still bad, just different and quite possibly worse. Your mileage may vary, though. Story 127. I would leave immediately if I were not halfway through my doctoral degree. Story 128. I looked into Italian citizenship by descent. They now limit eligibility to 1 or 2 generations. I would happily move to Europe or Asia if I could find a job. Laughing out loud. The United States is a fucking joke and it is only getting worse. Story 129. I moved 3 years ago after seeing the writing on the wall. I am so glad I did. Story 130. I do not live in the United States, thankfully. However, last year, when President Biden was still in office, my uncle went there to work, and I am terrified for his life. He is a good person and arrived legally, but all it would take is one officer in a bad mood to be nearby, and his life could be ruined. I do not want him there at all. Every day I hear all sorts of disturbing things that make me think the United States is a genuine hellhole right now. Story 131. I am not sure where would be safe. I am disabled, and I am worried they will stop my disability benefits. I am surprised they have not already, but if that happens I will be in serious trouble, likely homeless within a couple of months. Unfortunately, even if I had the savings to move outside the United States, as soon as I establish residency elsewhere, the Social Security Administration stops disability benefits, so I will have a hard time convincing another country to accept me and to support me financially. Story 132. I would love to. Probably the United Kingdom, Sweden, or Italy. As odd as it sounds, I would love to live in Russia. But, the United States is getting close to a boiling point. Both parties are absolutely tearing into each other, despite being American. When one party is so focused on destroying the other and on electing not so good people, and the voters themselves also agree to elect such people, I wonder why all the hate is fostered. The government needs to be replaced with new people. The wealthy need to die and be replaced. The corruption on both sides is far too great. It is basically chess at this point. Sometimes those chess pieces fall by accident. Story 133. Yes, I would leave a country where I no longer feel safe as a woman, and I believe my teenagers would not be safe there. Story 134. The whole world is on fire. It is hard to see anything else through the smoke. The grass is always greener where you water it. Story 135. No, but I am definitely renewing my children's passports just in case. Story 136. Sadly, everywhere else seems worse, especially for brown people. Story 137. I was in Christchurch, New Zealand, years ago. It was a very nice place. I could easily live there. Story 138. The moment a different country on my move here list invited me to come, I would say yes immediately. Story 139. I could already, but no. Overall, violence is down, and I don't like any other place enough to consider the ordeal of moving. Story 140. In a heartbeat. This country is literally a laughingstock to other countries. It's embarrassing. I want out. Story 141. I love Canada. I worked there for a couple of years. I like the new Prime Minister a lot. But there are some Canadian supporters of Make America Great Again, so it is not all good. Otherwise, Spain, outside Madrid perhaps. I am not a city person. Spain is such a neat country with a blend of cultures and architecture. Story 142. Years ago, I would have stayed and fought the fascists. Now I have a family that needs me. I would leave if possible. This country is getting worse by the day. I do not trust the vast majority of my countrymen. I firmly believe a large chunk of them are traitors supporting other traitors. Fuck the lot of them. Story 143. Politicians, wealthy individuals, hate groups of all races, and foreign governments that oppose the United States government have discovered they can manipulate and divide Americans. I am not leaving. I want Americans to wake up and unite, but I do not know if that will happen. Some of those wealthy individuals who do not want to fight will leave. Story 144. I want to leave so badly. We just had our first child, and I do not want to raise him in a fascist state on the brink of civil war. I watched season 1, episode 1 of Genius. Einstein, and holy fuck, that political climate is the same as ours today. Story 145. Why would I go anywhere when something happens in the United States? Story 146. I would go to Wales, where my family is said to have originated. Story 147. 99% worked. I have to get to bed to work tomorrow because, guess what? Rent is due, fuckers. Story 148. No, I love my community. I would defend it before I left. Story 149. I have always wanted to go to Norway. It looks like a beautiful country, and some of my favorite music comes from there. Story 150. I am super torn. I am transgender, and I updated my driver's license to have an X-gender marker. My state therefore has a clear and accessible record that I am transgender. That said, I live in a very blue state. Part of me is worried and wants to leave. My partner's family is from Europe, so we might not have too much trouble moving abroad because of that. I would probably struggle to find a job overseas. I do legal work in the United States right now. I legitimately worry about being rounded up and sent to a camp at some point in the next 3 years. On the other hand, fuck them. I am not going to let them destroy my country. I can fight for it and help make it better. I'd like to see them put my weaselly ass in a camp with a bunch of other gay people. We would organize and be out in 20 minutes with homemade jam and crocheted socks. I made my peace with being the target of a hate crime when I came out. That was always part of the equation. If they kill me, make me a martyr. The old world is dying, and the new world struggles to be born. Now is the time of monsters. By Antonio Gramsci. That quote often sits on my mind. I find it comforting. Though we are in the time of monsters now, the other side is not oblivion. It is the new world. We get to decide what that looks like. Story 151. With my degree and job, there is nowhere else I could earn as much or have the same buying power. Story 152. Plot twist. You leave the United States only to find the rest of the world is the downloadable content version of the same game. Story 153. I have definitely thought about it. I'm not sure where, though. Story 154. I want to leave and get my children out of here. They are all special needs, which presents its own set of challenges. Money is the biggest obstacle to leaving. I have been researching what it will take and where we could go. Story 155. No, I will tell you why. Events like this are a big deal and receive so much attention because, given the population and size of the United States of America, they are extremely rare. Consider that the United States of America is massive compared to other countries in both population and land area. In many other developed countries, these events occur more regularly. Rough estimates indicate there have been about 26 assassination attempts or credible threats against political figures in the United States of America in the last 10 years, including incidents involving Trump and Kirk. There were 330 attempts during the last election cycle in Mexico. The United Kingdom had 2 highly publicized incidents in the last 5 years, and reports from other countries indicate numerous foiled or successful plots against political figures, though reporting practices vary. Story 156. I will not leave while my country is going through this. When this passes, I will be more than happy to leave. Story 157. Probably Switzerland or Japan. I am more drawn to their approach to living and grew up influenced by their philosophies. I am a big fan of Carl Jung and Keiji Nishitani. I discovered Nishitani about a year ago. Story 158. If I can move to a comparable situation elsewhere, then yes, depending on where it is. I have left before. I am married to a dual citizen of the European Union and the United States. I have family in Scandinavia, so we would probably go to my husband's home. We have a good situation here and may still be able to help people being systematically abused by what is happening, so we are not in a rush. However, a point could come when we would leave. Story 159. I wish I could. I am the main caretaker for my mother and stepfather, and they are not in any condition for a major move. This is not just about moving long distance. We have finally found doctors and surgeons whom they trust and who are genuinely helpful. If or when they pass, I will definitely move. But until then, I cannot leave them. Story 160. If I could get my wife to agree, we would have already left years ago. Story 161. I was born in the US. I fought my entire life as a gay man to live here. I'm not going to let baseless threats scare me away from my home. I know it will be hard. I know it will be painful. But I will not stand down in defense of the principles of equality and equal protection in this country. I was taught that as a child, and I will oppose anyone who does not support those principles. I am not fleeing. I have the same right they have to be here. Take it from me. Story 162. Yes, it makes me uneasy being here. Do you have a place in mind? Story 163. I had the desire to leave even before Trump, but I never had the money. Now I am probably stuck here for good in a dying country. Story 164. Let it burn, and hopefully it will survive to help rebuild for the better. Story 165. I'm not going anywhere. Sure, there is craziness right now. There has been craziness since the dawn of man, and there always will be, no matter where you are. You'd be pleasantly surprised at how decent most people are. Life is very different from what the news shows on the screen, which is mostly screaming, violence, and turmoil. But that sells. Story 166. I would like to leave, but my wife is not as alarmed as I am. Story 167. My wife was born on a military base in Germany and has German citizenship. Deep in the forests of Germany is my dream bug-out location. Story 168. I left almost 10 years ago, but things are sliding into right-wing populism all over the world. Story 169. Please do not encourage them. We have enough crazy nut jobs as it is. Story 170. My people were forced out of our former homeland. I will never give up on it. Story 171. We vacated before the inauguration, Sold our house this past March and obtained residency in Mexico. No regrets. Returning home is an easy trip, and healthcare here is affordable and high quality. The food and weather are excellent. Story 172. Yes, that had already been the goal before things got so bad. I do not like our political environment, culture, or how the healthcare system works. I think life could be better elsewhere. If not, at least I tried something different. Story 173. My husband is an immigrant. There were not many job opportunities in his field at his level in his home country. However, this past year is the first in our 10-year relationship that leaving has seriously been on the table. He works as a medical engineer in a manufacturing facility that makes highly specialized medical devices. Fully half of the engineers are immigrants. Many have already left, which has made his day-to-day work much more stressful than it was a year ago because he is overworked. The salary is good, but there are not enough highly skilled Americans in those fields to fill those jobs. It is not surprising when you consider how expensive higher education is in the United States and how much you need to work to pay for those programs. Remember this the next time you or someone you know cannot get the healthcare they need because of supply shortages of vital, life-saving devices. People are certainly dying or suffering. With the stress from his job, from United States Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and from the general state of our government, we are seriously considering leaving. But I built a business here. I would have to abandon a business I love and worked hard on. My family and our friends are here. I have 2 nieces under 5 who live nearby, and I do not want to miss them growing up. It is not easy. Story 174. Although the situation is bad here, I will accept the geographic fortress we have in case things go badly because our adversaries share a land border. Story 175. I will never leave. This is my home. I cannot afford to move. If I could, I would take my people and go, but since I cannot, I will make the best of it. Story 176. Why would I leave? It is great here. Although there is war and conflict in many places, in the United States you can move to another state at any time if you want different laws or culture. Few places offer that flexibility. I live in a liberal state and feel very safe and secure about my future. If I did not like that, I might move somewhere in the South. No matter what, I have more freedom and opportunity here than I would in many places. I just have no health care, laughing out loud. Story 177. The United States of America still has the best opportunities for making a good or great living. I left for family reasons, and the rest of the world is struggling just as much, if not more. Story 178. I left in 2001 for a job. I watched things steadily go downhill. I am now a Canadian citizen with no plans to return. Story 179. Yes, I hate it here. We are increasingly divided, and the country is becoming authoritarian. Story 180. I am a Japanese citizen with a United States passport. I would not move without a proper plan. People enjoy visiting Japan as tourists, but economically, politically, and socially it is not all rosy. Story 181. I'm grateful to call Argentina home. My only family in the United States is my mother, but she spends half her time in each country. I lived in Argentina and wanted to stay. I really do not like life in the United States. It is not for me. I am married now, and my husband is also Latino and feels the same way. This is not his favorite place, so we are saving money and organizing things before we return to Argentina. Story 182. This is one of those American-oriented questions that don't quite work as well for non-Americans like me, but if I were American, it's safe to assume I would at least consider it at this point. Story 183. My wife is Polish and we are moving to Poland next year. This was always our plan, but we have moved it forward by several years. Things are only going to get worse here. I feel bad for not staying to fight, but sometimes you have to take the lifeboat before the ship goes down. You know things are bad when living next to an active war zone is the better option. Story 184. Indeed, Japan has experienced a rise in anti-foreigner right-wing movements recently, but it is still far more civil than what is happening in the United States right now. During my study abroad earlier this year, I met many welcoming and pleasant people. Story 185. I'm sorry you're feeling this way. Are you safe right now? If you are in immediate danger, please call emergency services. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988. In the United Kingdom or Republic of Ireland, you can call Samaritans at 116 123. Do you have a plan to harm yourself? I can help find local resources if you tell me your country. If I had the means, I would be gone already. My destination would be the east coast of Northern Ireland, near Belfast. This country is imploding rapidly. Story 186. Redditors of the United States, please stay away from Australia. From what I have seen the online community posting today, stay there, wreak havoc, and keep glorifying your evils. White Australian liberals and socialists already want to be like you and are fucking up our country just as much as yours. Story 187. I am only staying because of my elderly father. Once he moves on, I will leave. I have been doing research and have gathered many things. Story 188. Where would I go? All my friends and family are here. This is the only home I have ever known. This is my country, and I will fight for it. Story 189. Honestly, I would love to move to another country. We are foster parents and cannot move out of our red state without risking losing the children we have cared for the past 5 years. I worry about them. Our daughter has effectively lost reproductive freedom in an industrialized country with high maternal mortality. Our children have underlying medical conditions and may not be able to afford care, and their brown skin alone places them at heightened risk of violence and civil rights violations. I want to go somewhere they are less likely to experience these things. My father is also here, and I do not know if he would be willing to move. If I knew my father and the children could move with us, I would go in a heartbeat to a place where they would be safer. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.